The Canada-US relationship is more than foreign policy. It's the backbone of our economy and identity. For decades, our open border and NAFTA have created one of the world's largest free trade zones, deeply integrating our economies. Millions of Canadian jobs, from auto plants to agriculture, depend on this access to the US market. NAFTA wasn't just a trade deal, it was the framework for our modern economy, enabling businesses to innovate and grow across borders. Any threat to NAFTA was an existential risk to Canadian families and communities. When the agreement's future was questioned, the stakes were clear. Our prosperity and stability were on the line. We faced a moment where defending free and fair trade became a national imperative. The 2016 US election brought a dramatic shift. President Trump targeted NAFTA, blaming it for lost American jobs. The new administration saw NAFTA as unfair, demanding aggressive changes, scrapping dispute settlement, stricter auto rules, more dairy access, and a 5-year sunset clause. This protectionist approach upended decades of shared prosperity. Canada could no longer rely on old assumptions. The US threatened to withdraw, creating intense uncertainty. Negotiations became public and volatile, with Trump using social media to pressure partners. The process was unpredictable, with the very foundation of our partnership at stake. We weren't just renegotiating a trade deal, we were navigating a new era in North American relations. The challenge was clear: defend our interests in a rapidly changing landscape. Facing this challenge, Canada set clear priorities: protect jobs, maintain market access, and preserve the core of NAFTA. We insisted on a fair dispute settlement system to shield our industries from arbitrary US actions. In the auto sector, we resisted extreme US demands that threatened the integrated supply chain. We pushed for progressive updates, stronger labor, environmental, and gender equality provisions. Protecting our cultural industries and supply management for farmers was non-negotiable. The unpredictability of the US administration meant we had to be disciplined and resilient. Our team filtered out the noise, focused on substance, and prepared for any outcome. Our approach: united, unwavering, and always defending Canada's national interest. Negotiations were tense, with moments of real crisis. Each meeting felt like walking a tightrope, with the potential for everything to unravel with a single misstep. The weight of the nation rested on the shoulders of the negotiators, who had to navigate a complex web of demands and pressures. When the US imposed steel and aluminum tariffs on Canada, it sent shockwaves through our economy. These tariffs threatened key industries and the livelihoods of countless workers. We responded with targeted retaliatory tariffs, showing we wouldn't be bullied. This was a calculated move, designed to demonstrate our resolve and protect our economic interests. It was a clear message that Canada would not back down in the face of unfair trade practices. The US also demanded a 5-year sunset clause, a provision that would automatically terminate the agreement after 5 years unless both countries agreed to renew it, which would have created constant uncertainty and threatened investment. Businesses need stability to plan for the future, and a sunset clause would have undermined that stability, making it difficult to attract investment and create jobs. We stood firm, arguing that stability was essential for business confidence. Our negotiators emphasized the importance of a long-term agreement that would provide businesses with the certainty they needed to invest and grow. Public attacks from President Trump added pressure, creating a challenging political environment for the negotiations. These attacks were often personal and unpredictable, making it difficult to find common ground. But we stayed calm and focused on substance. Our team maintained a professional demeanor, focusing on the details of the agreement and avoiding getting drawn into political distractions. The final weeks were a high-wire act. The US struck a deal with Mexico and threatened to leave Canada out. This was a pivotal moment as it raised the specter of Canada being isolated and excluded from a major trade agreement. Our team worked around the clock to bridge gaps on dairy and dispute settlement. These were two of the most contentious issues, requiring creative solutions and compromises on both sides. The risk of exclusion was real, but we refused to capitulate on core principles. We were determined to protect our sovereignty and ensure that any agreement was in the best interests of Canadians. Every move was about balancing the need for a deal with protecting our national interests. It was a delicate balancing act, requiring careful consideration of the potential consequences of each decision. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The future of Canada's trade relationship with its largest partner hung in the balance, and the outcome would have far-reaching consequences for our economy and our people. Our Team Canada strategy united leaders from all parties, provinces, and sectors. We launched an unprecedented outreach campaign, building a coalition at home and allies across the US. Ministers and diplomats met with American officials, armed with data showing how many US jobs depended on trade with Canada. At the table, our negotiators were disciplined and fact-driven, always prepared to counter US proposals with evidence. We refused to be rushed or bullied into a bad deal. Transparent communication kept Canadians informed and united. When tariffs hit, we explained our response and goals clearly. This unity and professionalism were key to weathering the storm and securing a strong agreement. The Sunset Clause was arguably the biggest ideological clash we faced during the entire negotiation process. It represented fundamentally different approaches to trade agreements and long-term economic planning. Trump's team initially wanted a 5-year expiry, a hard stop on the agreement after just half a decade. From our perspective, this was a deal-breaker. It introduced far too much uncertainty into the equation. We argued forcefully that no business, whether large multinational corporations or small to medium-sized enterprises, would be willing to make significant investments with such a cloud of uncertainty hanging over the agreement. The prospect of the entire trade framework dissolving after just 5 years would stifle innovation, discourage expansion, and ultimately harm all three economies. The deadlock was intense, a real sticking point that threatened to derail the entire negotiation. We spent countless hours debating the merits and drawbacks of the Sunset Clause. With both sides initially refusing to back down from their entrenched positions, the atmosphere in the room was often thick with tension. As we grappled with this fundamental disagreement, the breakthrough finally came through compromise, a testament to the hard work and dedication of all parties involved. Instead of a rigid 5-year sunset, which we knew was unacceptable, we ultimately agreed to a 16-year term for the agreement, providing a much longer horizon for businesses to plan and invest. This 16-year term was coupled with a review mechanism scheduled to occur every 6 years. This gave the US a regular review mechanism to ensure the agreement was still meeting its objectives and serving their interests, but simultaneously provided Canada and Mexico with the long-term stability and predictability we desperately needed to encourage investment and foster economic growth. The new process incentivizes all parties to actively work together to keep the agreement functioning effectively and equitably without the constant and looming threat of automatic termination hanging over our heads. It was a critical victory, a hard-fought compromise that paved the way for the rest of the agreement, turning what was initially a deal-breaking demand into a manageable and mutually beneficial review process. This compromise on the Sunset Clause ultimately allowed us to move forward and finalize the remaining aspects of the agreement, bringing us closer to a comprehensive trade deal. It was a defining moment, showcasing the power of creative problem-solving and the art of the possible in high-stakes international negotiation. After a year of tough talks, a year marked by intense negotiations and unwavering dedication from all parties involved, we finally arrived at a pivotal moment. These discussions were not always easy. They demanded compromise, strategic thinking, and a deep understanding of the economic landscape. We reached the USMCA, a landmark agreement that reshapes trade relations between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. This wasn't just about signing a document. It was about securing a future of stable and prosperous trade for all involved. The agreement represents countless hours of work, dedication, and a shared vision for economic growth. This agreement is vital as it preserves tariff-free access to the US for most Canadian exports. This access is the lifeblood of many Canadian industries, ensuring they can compete effectively in the North American market. From agricultural products to manufactured goods, tariff-free access supports jobs and economic growth across the country. Our biggest win is keeping an independent dispute resolution system, now enshrined as Chapter 31 within the agreement. This mechanism is absolutely critical. It serves to protect against unfair U.S. trade actions, ensuring that Canada has recourse when disputes arise. This independent system provides a fair and impartial forum for resolving disagreements, preventing one country from unilaterally imposing its will on another. It's a cornerstone of a balanced and equitable trade relationship. In the automotive sector, we accepted stricter rules of origin and new labor standards, understanding the need to adapt to a changing global landscape. However, we ensured they were workable for Canadian industry, preventing undue hardship and maintaining our competitive edge. These rules were carefully negotiated to strike a balance between promoting fair competition and protecting Canadian jobs. Throughout the negotiations, we consistently resisted the harshest U.S. proposals, standing firm on issues that were critical to our national interest. We also secured transition periods for manufacturers, providing them with the time and resources needed to adapt to the new rules. This foresight will help minimize disruption and ensure a smooth transition for Canadian businesses. The hardest concession was the increased U.S. access to our dairy market, a sensitive issue for Canadian farmers. Despite this, we protected the core of supply management, a system that is vital to the stability and sustainability of our dairy industry. We fought hard to minimize the impact on Canadian dairy farmers and ensure they can continue to thrive. We also safeguarded our cultural industries, recognizing their importance to our national identity and heritage. Furthermore, we modernized rules for digital trade and intellectual property, ensuring that Canada remains at the forefront of the digital economy. These updated rules will foster innovation, protect Canadian businesses, and promote growth in the digital sector. The agreement isn't perfect, no trade agreement ever is, but it keeps the essential elements that support millions of Canadian jobs, providing stability and opportunity for our workforce. USMCA modernizes North American trade, adapting it to the realities of the 21st century economy, all the while protecting our most vital interests, ensuring that Canada's sovereignty and economic well-being are preserved. It's a testament to our team's resilience and focus, their unwavering commitment to securing the best possible outcome for Canada. Canada emerged with a deal that works for our future, a deal that will benefit generations to come. Many were surprised by Canada's ability to withstand U.S. pressure and defend our interests. The Team Canada strategy, unifying political leaders and stakeholders, sent a powerful message of national resolve. Our deep outreach in the U.S. built a network of allies who understood the value of stable trade with Canada. We showed American lawmakers how their own jobs depended on our partnership. This created domestic pressure in the U.S. to avoid a trade war. Our negotiating team stayed patient and professional, refusing to be rattled by threats or deadlines. We trusted that economic logic would prevail. By sticking to facts and showing unbreakable resolve, we secured a fair deal. Canada proved that unity and preparation can overcome even the toughest odds. The USMCA's conclusion ended a period of uncertainty and opened a new era for Canada. We learned the value of unity, patience, and proactive diplomacy in defending our economic sovereignty. The agreement secures our access to the U.S. market and updates rules for the modern economy. The Team Canada model is now a permanent part of our diplomatic toolkit. We must remain vigilant and keep building alliances at every level in the U.S. The USMCA saga was more than a negotiation. It was a defining moment for Canada's place in the world. We emerged stronger, with a legacy of resilience that will serve us for decades.